Knockout Legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So today I want to talk about boxing fans. Now, in the broadest sense, you have hardcore fans, and they're the guys that are proper into the boxing. So they're like the guys that, no matter what, objectively they'll watch a fight and try and be as unbiased as possible, and give an honest critique and an honest review of whichever fighter they support and whichever fighter has won a fight. So in general, they're like the hardcore fringe. Now, boxing doesn't really have a big, wide fan base, as some people like to believe. A lot of it is casuals, people that come into the sport when there's a big event and they kind of follow the crowd, and because it's an event and a night out and something to do, they basically jump on the bandwagon. Then you have hardcore, how can I put it, fanatical fans that specifically only like follow certain boxers. And I think this comes down to the tribalism within boxing and to do with race as well, and demographics, where people, when it's their demographic, they follow that fighter wholeheartedly to the death, and no matter what he does, he can't do any wrong. And then you kind of get an in-between with that as well, with certain boxing fans. But going back to the, I don't know, the biased like fans that follow their demographic or their tribe of boxers, giving a few examples, you got the Wilder fans. No matter what Wilder does or says or who he fights, they'll back him 100%. You've also got the Fury fans. They're actually interesting because before Fury come back and after he lost all the weight, he didn't really have the fans that he has now. And you can see the parallel in how Fury as a person was before and how he is now as a person. But I think, my honest opinion, America kind of corrupted him. When he saw the glitz, the glamour, that kind of lavish lifestyle that he could live, it kind of corrupted him a bit. I think he's been corrupted to the point where he's seen another facet of his personality and how he really is. So I suppose it shed light on Fury in a way where maybe he had that, but he'd keep it in check. Like people like Peter, Huey, you know, the positive influences around him would keep maybe his ego in check and keep him more down to earth. You know what I mean? Because you see that side of Tyson Fury sometimes, but like a lot of the braggadocious, ego, overconfident, that comes with that kind of lavish showmanship side of things in the boxing. And I think that's because of the being in America, that side has kind of like brought that to the surface. But anyway, moving on, we got Canelo fans as well. Flipping heck, they're something different. No matter what Canelo does, he's a legend. He's the best. Forget that he got beat by Bivol. Forget that he had arguably 2 close fights with Triple G, and I think he won the first Triple G fight, to be honest. So, you know what I mean, that's my honest opinion, you know what I mean. And then the second fight, I can give that to Canelo, but then you fought Triple G when he was an old man, and again you cherry picked him when basically he was at the end of his career. We weren't the same, do you know what I mean? But that's boxing. I suppose you have the Mayweather fans as well. You know, no matter what Mayweather does, he's not, you know, he can't be don't get me wrong, I'm a big Mayweather fan, but like there is some fights that are questionable that Mayweather did lost, like the Jose Castillo fight. You know, that was a fight that arguably got gifted that, you know. And obviously there's a couple of blemishes on Mayweather's record, like when he knocked out what was the kid's name, and the kid kept apologising for the elbow, trying to remember his name. Flipping heck, it'll come back to me anyway. But you know, I think you know what I mean. If you're into your boxing, he knocked the guy out. The guy apologised. He apologised again. Then he apologised again, and he just knocked him out. And then Larry Merchant stuck in the ring, come in the ring, and was basically insulting him. And then Mayweather said he didn't know shit about boxing. That was actually funny, that. But anyway, we've also got I suppose AJ fans as well. Until AJ was winning, AJ could do no wrong. But see the parallel between the Fury fans and the AJ fans. A lot of fans have turned on AJ because since he got beat by Ruiz, they just throw him under the scrap heap and rubbish him. And to be fair, I think a lot of the criticism's unjust because, again, what you have to understand about Anthony Joshua from the inception to where he is now, he was basically a marketing product, and he followed the script because that's what worked with him. But it's kind of his own fault. He should have took a little bit more control of his career instead of letting Eddie Hearn guide him and push him into things that he probably didn't want to do. And that late stepping in of opponents, people stepping in to save Eddie Hearn shows, that's a bit detrimental to Anthony Joshua. And I think because he's the cash cow, well, he was the cash cow that Hearn tried to push, and it worked for a certain amount of time, and then obviously the banana skin that was Andy Ruiz threw them plans into the bin. Even though, remember, he beat Andy Ruiz, he avenged that. Yeah, he was tentative, he was scared, but come on. How many times did AJ get dropped in that fight? He got dropped about 5 times. And arguably, the first knockdown was a punch to the back of the head. And everyone keeps going on like they could take a full shot from Andy Ruiz. I don't know any normal person or any fighter that's not a professional boxer that's up in that like echelon of boxers that could take a full-fledged shot from behind the ear, the back of the head by Andy Ruiz. Remember, Andy Ruiz his name's the Destroyer, El Destructo. He's the Destroyer. My man's got an art of knocking out taller opponents, and forget what the guy looks like. The guy's Mexican. The guy can box. He's got fast hands. He knows how to fight in the pocket. He knows how to fight taller guys. You know, on the night, it weren't Joshua's night, and that was the first time Ruiz had ever been dropped. And ever since then, Anthony Joshua is rubbish. He's chinny, he's gun shy, he's blah, blah, blah. Whatever people want to say. Give the guy a break, man. We know what it is. You know, he's not winning no more. So he's not British no more. He's Nigerian born. That's all I've got to say. That's how some British fans are. When you're winning, you're British. When you're not winning, you whatever your demographic is. So, or you're from Nigerian origin or whatever people want to say to distance themselves from him. That's how people are. Anyway, moving on to other fans, I'd say Errol Spence fans. Again, Errol Spence don't need to fight anyone. Errol Spence can do what he wants. Blah, 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 blah. You don't need to fight Crawford. You know, Crawford hasn't got anything. He needs to do more. You know, blah, 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 blah. Now that he got beat, everyone's turned on Errol Spence. His own city's turned on him. Nobody wants to actually even acknowledge Errol Spence. Ras, the guy went around and collected all the belts. Forget about the way he did it and what he did and the way he's hyped him up to do what he wanted to do. And, you know, you want to make sense of stuff. Yeah, maybe the way he went about it was wrong. And the big build-up and him pushing for the fight, him finally 5 years later realising he had to fight Crawford just to actually prove to himself that he is the best in that division. He come short, but it don't mean he's a crap fighter. It just means that he should have fought Crawford sooner instead of exerting all that energy and getting all the other belts, because he basically did Crawford's work for him. And Crawford probably couldn't have got those fights at them times because the other fighters wouldn't fight him. And a lot of them fighters were PBC fighters anyway, so they didn't really mess with Top Rank and they wouldn't mess with Crawford anyway. So it was one of them. That's Al Heyman's business model. So when the fight finally got pushed, you have to give Spence his dues because he pushed for the fight because he knew he would never ever get the fight being with Al Heyman. He had to push him aside and go, right, I want this fight. You know what I mean? So I give Spence his dues, even though the way he's gone about things, that's down to obviously the other structure behind him. That's not really Spence's fault. It's not even that I think he was scared. I think it's more about money, business, just in general, to sell things to boxing fans, just to, in a way to market things, which in a way is a smart business model, but detrimentally because you've waited so long and now you've been hyped up to something that you're not, and then you get beat. It kind of diminishes who you are as a fighter. So, you know, people are fickle, man. The mob is fickle. They turn on you in a heartbeat. You know, 1 minute you're the flavour of the month. The next minute, you're nobody. Like Biggie says, you're nobody till somebody kills you, in a sense. And don't mean it literal, but like in a sense when you lose, it's like somebody's died when you lose in boxing. You know what I mean? More people need to take the approach that Derek Chisora takes when they lose. Not because it's the best thing to do, but like sometimes losing can make you better. Look at Lennox Lewis, arguably one of the best British heavyweights, even though he lost. Even Tyson, even though he lost, arguably one of the best heavyweights, unified heavyweights. Evander Holyfield. I can go on. There's a list. You know what I mean? A loss doesn't define how good a fighter is. A loss just means that they quit at the right time and they fought the best opponents that could fight at that period. Unless, like some people say about Mayweather, they cherry picked and picked who they wanted to fight. You know. Then you have the other fans that you have are just the casuals. They will just go out, and when a fight is winning, they're on board with the fighter that's winning. Once they lose, it's always rubbish. He was always rubbish. Look, this person beat him. He's rubbish. So they're the casuals. They're not really boxing fans. They're more hype train, jump on the bandwagon kind of thing. So the point I'm trying to make about this is that we as the fans dictate how a boxer's career is. Now, some have hardcore fans, some have casuals, some have critical, unbiased fans, and some have the fans that just ride with their tribe no matter what. Because you have fans as well that are sort of casuals that jump with the tribe when their tribe or their type of boxer is fighting, so they'll back them no matter what and they can do no wrong. But the point I'm trying to make is we dictate a boxer's career in a sense. So when certain fighters get exposed, like Fury, it kind of shows up the boxing fans, because when you overhype somebody and you push a certain narrative and the narrative's not true, it exposes the sport and it makes the sport look bad. Because the saddest thing about the Ngannou fight, what I find very distasteful, is everyone saying now that Ngannou can knock out AJ, he can knock out Wilder, he can knock out Ruiz. I don't honestly believe that. I think, on my honest opinion, Ngannou would struggle with any of those four fighters. And I think, to be fair, he may actually get knocked out by any of those four fighters. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he wouldn't have a chance, but it's boxing. Styles make fights. And there is no guarantee that he could do what he did to Fury, to them. He may not even drop them, because one, they're professional boxers, and two, they're going to take Ngannou serious. It's Fury's own fault. Arrogance, it's arrogance, and pride came before a fall. He should have realised when he took this fight, even though he thought it would be easy, that it wasn't easy. Just because you think you have a plan of how it's going to go doesn't mean it's going to go like that. And basically, if Mike Tyson's decided to train this guy and took him on as his protege and wants to be in his corner, that should tell you something, Tyson. Remember, Tyson's your guy. He actually cheered when you knocked out Deontay Wilder, and that's another American fighter. He cheered, he jumped up when you knocked him out. So that should tell you something about Ngannou, where you shouldn't have took him the way you took him. And don't get me wrong, I said Fury won that fight objectively as a boxing fan, and looking at it how I looked at it. Doesn't matter what everyone else says. I'm not following what everyone else says. My eyes see what they see. That's my opinion. It was a close fight, but Fury won by I'd say one round. Do you know what I mean? But everyone else has got their opinion because everyone sees boxing different, and it depends, how you score a fight. A lot of people didn't score the fight; they're just looking at it for value sake, and thinking, well, Fury couldn't hurt him. He got knocked down, arguably got knocked down again, and he elbowed him, so a point should have got taken off. And fair enough, all them points make sense. But if the referee's not going to do his job, again, another part of boxing that's terrible corruption in a sense, where he's not going to take a point off Fury. Because arguably, if Ngannou did that, he probably would have got disqualified or got points taken off him. Because remember, he's an MMA fighter. And then you're getting dropped, what you're calling it a slip. Now, who should define what a drop is or a slip? Like we have in football VAR, why shouldn't we have slow motion refereeing in boxing where there's a decision, the cornermen can contest it, they go to a video replay quickly, call timeout for a quick second or two, and then play it back and then see if it is a legitimate knockdown, then give the person a 10 count. Do you know what I mean? Then it gets added onto the scorecard. Then it's unbiased. Yeah, it slows the action down and gives the other fighter a chance to thingy, but it stops referees making a snap decision that's wrong because it can cost somebody the fight. So that would be unbiased and fair. Do you know what I mean? And if somebody actually had a job to do that in the ring quickly and then you showed it to the other judges while they're doing that, then you can make up the decision quickly whether it's, a knockdown, and then the person has to take account, regardless of if they recover or whatever or whatnot. Because the referee, even though the referee is supposed to be unbiased, we all know the human, they make errors. Everyone can make a mistake. So anyway, back to what I'm saying about fans. We decide the sport, we define where it's going. So we define how our sport is perceived by other sports fans. And it's kind of sad that we've kind of cheapened boxing by turning it into a spectacle and by allowing other people from other sports to come in and dilute the sport, because in a sense, by diluting it, you're kind of exposing what we all know. Boxing is not 1+1. It's a lot different. It's down to the style, the reach, the height, the heart, the stamina, the strength, the training, the readiness, the adrenaline, the confidence, all the things that make a fighter up, and all the things that can determine if they're going to win. Even somebody passing away and raw emotion can make a fighter become a tower, a giant on their day. Just because they've got a rubbish record doesn't mean they can't beat the best. So anyway, tell me what you think. Like, comment and subscribe. And that is another one from Knockout Legends. Peace.